Welcome to episode 234 of the G2 on 5G. It's the latest inside scoop on everything 5G and 6G, and we cover 6 topics in about 20 minutes, and it's brought to you by More Insights and Strategy. I'm Will Townsend, and joining me again this week is fellow analyst Anshul Sag. Let's get started with my first topic. I want to talk about Deutsche Telekom, and in 2026, they are planning to build an AI Gigafactory. So this news follows prior news around the company and mobile network operator wanting to build an AI cloud. And no surprise, they're working with NVIDIA on this. And they report that testing of AI functions are already underway. Key to this is also a partnership model. So Deutsche Telekom is working not only with NVIDIA and a company called Brookfield, but there are nearly 100 applicants that want to participate in this. And, from my perspective, we've seen mobile network operators, launch cloud services. I don't know, man. What's your thought? Can Deutsche Telekom be successful with this?
Well, it's interesting because Brookfield is a big infrastructure company.
Yeah.
So this is clearly an infrastructure play.
Right.
I believe that this will likely be something that they try to offer to companies to get this AI performance on the 5G network as close as possible to the user.
Yeah.
And I think that's the play is CSPs, they can only get so close to the customer.
Right.
And the truth is the mobile network operators like a Deutsche Telekom are always going to be closer. So
Sure.
I think this might be one of those plays where it's like we're going to play towards low latency AI applications.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how I see this.
Yeah.
But those might still be a little bit down the road, which is why this might be a process of a couple years until it actually gets rolled out and built out. And by then there might be more demand for this edge AI capability.
Yeah. No, hey, you make a great observation. Edge AI, right? And that's something that we've been talking about on this podcast for quite some time. And there are going to be applications that are going to take full advantage of that when you think about manufacturing and logistics and that sort of thing. And great observation, my friend. Well, hey, let's go to your first topic. You want to talk about Reliance. They're launching 10 new nationwide 5G network slices in India. I didn't catch this news, so I'm looking very forward to hearing what you have to say about it.
Yeah, so I saw this on RCR.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, it's 10 different types of slices that run nationwide across India. They include, IoT, gaming, FWA, and mission critical services. They said that their fixed wireless subscriber business, which is one of the slices, it's called AirFiber, has 7.4 million subscribers, making it the world's leading FWA provider, which, if you remember, we get to take credit for this. We both said that was going to happen.
Yeah.
Right? We said that Jio was going to be the one who got FWA scale the fastest and the most. And they did. This is just kind of, Reliance talking about using their own in-house 5G SA core, and deploying real-world applications nationwide, and not talking about them as pilots or having them in certain locations, but building it fully nationwide, and having SLA-based 5G experiences that isolate traffic for each slice, that really guarantees performance for what people need. And I am actually hoping that I can get a gaming slice deployed here in San Diego for Comic-Con next year, because the PC gaming room that we have at Comic-Con, that's actually officially part of Comic-Con, has no internet, because internet is a complete and utter nightmare at conventions.
It typically is, right? Yeah.
And I'm going to try and find a way to work with one of the providers to do that. So network slices are really important in congested environments. And this is really not a surprise. If anything, I would call this a victory lap.
Right.
I think Geo's just beginning, because I think there are going to be some applications that they are going to make possible before anybody else. and this is the beginning of it.
So let me make sure I understood what you said. So are they slicing for both mobility and FWA?
Yep.
Wow, that's interesting, because all of the discussion and talk has been around to date has been mostly around mobility. So that is an interesting wrinkle that they're introducing that
it's
into
kind of similar what
FWA.
AT&T did, right? Their first standalone rollout was a slice specifically for fixed wireless.
Well, I remember that, and I got corrected because they didn't want me to use the term slice, right?
Okay, so it's not a slice.
You're talking about turbo, right?
Well, just the whole FWA deployment
Okay.
is standalone, right?
Yeah. Right.
But I don't know if it sounds like turbo is not a slice, right?
Not quite. Yeah, and it's funny. I went back and forth with a lot of folks internally on this, and right, wrong, or indifferent. It was around the whole net neutrality discussions as well. And I mean, turbo is a pretty interesting offering. We've talked about it on prior podcasts, but
That's for mobility, right?
Yeah. Well,
yeah, I think, or is that for FWA as well?
Yeah, it applies to both, but it's really sort of and it kind of ladders into what AT&T is doing with Guarantee, and delivering not a hard SLA that's not monetized, but really trying to step up and provide not only the most consistent and reliable mobility and FWA service, but also offer the best deals.
Well, I guess Geo is just putting it into a slice so they don't have to overcomplicate it, right?
No, it's interesting. They continue to be an innovator, a leader. They lean into disaggregated infrastructure. They've done quite a bit, and they've done it very, very cost effectively. I looked at their most recent earnings, super solid. They continue to kind of crank on the important things there, and they're ultimately providing lots of value to their subscribership, and they are growing. By my estimation, they're growing at a faster clip than their other competitors in India. But good stuff, my friend. Well, let me go hit my second topic. I want to talk about T-Mobile, and they're working with fluid conservation systems. And what they're doing is they're teaming up for U.S. water utility transformation. And this has to do with IoT and leak detection systems. And so obviously T-Mobile is providing its T-IoT platform, something that you and I have talked about on many different occasions. But it's a really interesting use case. It's acoustic water leak solution. So it's actually using sensors to listen acoustically to determine leak detection. And if you think about it, this requires a lot of technology. It's going to require ultra low latency. It's not your typical industrial type IoT use case, but I thought it was really, really interesting to highlight. It's doing a lot of different things. It's basically replacing the manual hydrant to hydrant inspection process, sort of like what cellular is doing for smart metering, where you don't have to send the meter maid or meter man. You can do this all electronically. In Austin, Texas, before I moved to Bastrop, they had implemented something like that. And again, one of the other big challenges, and at least in older cities, and we had this issue in Austin at my older home in central Austin, a lot of the infrastructure is aging. A lot of like the connections from the water mains into homes are not PVC. They're metal. In some instances, they're ceramic, because some of the neighborhoods in Austin date back to the 40s and 50s. And actually, in my old neighborhood, it was a cotton plantation many years ago. But there's an environmental impact to what they're doing here. So I love it. It's driving sustainability, it's driving efficiency, and it's leveraging the power of T-Mobile's nationwide network. So, what are your thoughts?
I saw this announcement.
Yeah,
Um, I do think that this is actually a lower like frequency connection, so I don't think this needs a very high throughput connection.
yeah,
Um, I think it's leak detection tends to be, it's really to preserve the infrastructure that could be leaked into.
hmm,
Um, you know, mold remediation is a huge problem. So if you can spend, $5-10 a month at most to save yourself thousands of dollars down the road,
yeah,
it's nothing. Um, but I do think that this is one of those things where somebody has to connect it somehow.
hmm,
Um, Most likely, there's probably some kind of a hub that's taking the sensor data and then transmitting it up to the cloud. And yeah, this is just one of those things where it's like there's so many opportunities for modernization of infrastructure and
hmm,
also monitoring old infrastructure as well. So
yeah,
I think there's multiple avenues that this can benefit both consumers and government and other
yeah,
NGOs. Um, and in general, I just think that there's a lot of opportunity to modernize and improve and save on costs. I think also it'll be one of those things where it's like, when there's a disaster, these sensors can also be used to know like which homes are underwater, which
right,
homes aren't. There's all kinds of things, but the acoustic sensor is an interesting one
yeah,
because most of the leak sensors that I've experienced have been a physical sensor that sits at the bottom of
moisture,
your sink.
yeah, moisture, yeah,
Um, and yeah, they're just detecting for moisture. But I actually had a leak happen in my old apartment, and the detector went off. So um, it works.
yeah. No, I mean, water is a precious resource, right? And I think we've all experienced water leaks, and in our day, and as a homeowner, I had an issue moving into my new home as well, and it's sometimes very difficult to pinpoint that. So, and this is certainly more of a kind of commercial, to your point, critical infrastructure, type deployment. But it would be cool to see this cascade down into the consumer, kind of realm. But I just thought it was a really interesting use case. And again, T-Mobile continues to build upon what it's doing, within enterprise services and T-Mobile for Business. And it's we were talking about T-Mobile, 5-6 years ago when they were battling to acquire Sprint, and it's just been fun to see the evolution of the company, over time. And for our viewers and listeners, Anshul and I will be spending more time with the team there in Bellevue towards the end of the month, and so some of that will be probably under non-disclosure, but anything that we can publicly share, we will probably speak to in a future podcast. But let's go to your second topic, and we're going to get the Space Mob excited about this one, my friend. But you want to talk about AST SpaceMobile and global S-band spectrum.
Yes. So this is actually quite a big deal.
Yeah,
Um, the details of this deal will be disclosed on earnings on Monday. So this is kind of like a pre-read for earnings.
yeah,
And basically, they signed a deal, an agreement to acquire S-band priority rights under the ITU, and that this spectrum will be valuable for them to essentially access at a global scale.
hmm,
Because right now, a lot of satellite providers, including them, they're using terrestrial licenses.
and they're
Um,
working individually with mobile network operators, and that becomes a very
yes,
fragmented process, right? Yeah,
right. It's
yeah,
a pretty it's a lot of work, a lot of legal, a lot of
yeah,
wrangling and harmonization, all kinds of things.
sure.
But they did say that it is a uh, in the 1980 to 2010 megahertz and 2170 to 2200 megahertz bands,
Hmm,
um, and that it's a $64.5 million deal, um, and it's $26 million paid at closing, and then deferred consideration of $38 million. Um, and company expects the deal to close in the second half of this year. So the spectrum will be available fairly soon.
Yeah.
So it's clearly somebody who already owns it.
Yeah.
They have not disclosed who's the owner of the spectrum, um, but MSS spectrum is pretty valuable, um, because it's you don't have to use terrestrial spectrum like we mentioned earlier,
Yeah.
and this would enable them to power their own service, and not to have to be depending on different carriers around the world to do so. So this is
Mm-hmm.
like a huge net positive for the company. I think people will be very excited about this, um, and we'll get more details on Monday when they report earnings. Um, but I think AST being able to deploy their own service would be huge,
Yeah.
um, and it would be cool to see how that translates, to smartphone compatibility and all these other things, that are always challenging down the road.
Sure.
Um, but yeah, like I don't really see this being bad in any way, shape, or form. If anything, it shows that the company's maturing and that they're
Yeah.
looking to bolster their capabilities at a global scale.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Now, early on, I weighed in a few years ago and sort of evaluated after spending time with AST SpaceMobile, their tech stack versus Starlink. One of the things I pointed out was that at the time, it seemed like AST SpaceMobile was going to be just satisfied with being sort of that middleware provider. And I pointed out that, Starlink, has a competitive satellite FWA offering, and that could create some friction. The partnership that Starlink has with T-Mobile, I believe it's not and it's a time bound sort of exclusive between the two companies, and so that will expire eventually. But yeah, I mean, this sort of builds upon prior news that AST Space Mobile is absolutely focused on creating a standalone service, right? But I still think that there's an opportunity for that to coexist with what they're doing with Vodafone, what they're doing with AT&T, for direct to sell, and what they're doing with other MNOs around the world, because they've got 60 plus some odd MOUs with mobile network operators. But this just gives them additional flexibility. And last time that Bill and I were together, and it was in Barcelona, we were talking about a lot of different things. And there are, I think it's no secret that there are some applications, tied to the government. And I don't have any detail on that, and he couldn't go into any detail on that because that is obviously very highly confidential. But we were also talking about, well, think about reimagining the experience on aircraft, right? Because when you're flying at 25, 30, 35,000 feet, and we're talking low Earth orbit satellites, I mean, think about the distance versus traditional, geosynchronous, satellite connectivity. And we all know that the performance that we have with, services like GoGo is less than desirable. I've been a little opinionated about that, but this is all exciting. I mean, I think it's gonna provide flexibility. It's gonna provide them to look at different areas that they can go search for adjacency and incremental revenue opportunities. And I think this is just an exciting development in general for NTN services. So great stuff, and I'm glad you picked that as a topic. Had you not, I probably would have picked it. But let me wrap up with my third and final topic. And I had been pre-briefed by the Celona team on this, but this week they've launched a new architecture called Airflux, and I provided some insights on both my LinkedIn and X handles. But from my perspective, this is pretty game changing. And so what it's doing, it's moving the cloud, I mean the core into the cloud, basically. And in so doing, it's Celona is going to make it just as easy as a Wi-Fi deployment. I mean, basically, you hang their private 5G access point, and then there's an amount of processing on that. I asked them what the chipset was because I knew you would be interested in that, and I didn't really get I didn't get a complete answer on that, but they well, actually I did. Now that I think about it, it's NXP. It's I thought it would be Qualcomm. They are using Qualcomm modems, but they're using NXP SoCs for this. But from my perspective, this reduces the friction. This improves the viability of sort of cherry picking different environments. If you think about like a college campus and the student union, that's a story under the ground or whatever, it's just going to provide flexibility. And what I also like about it is that Celona is able to process secure local breakout on the access point. What do you think, buddy, about all that?
I think it's interesting. Um, the access point solution is something that I'm not really familiar with.
Yeah.
So I kind of I'll take your analysis at face value.
Yeah. I mean, basically what it does is it eliminates the need to have core infrastructure racked within an environment. So it just provides flexibility from a deployment perspective. And if you think about branch locations where you have little IT staff, you're just going to be able to deploy, their private 5G solution that much more easily. So I'll probably be going a little bit deeper into this in a future, contributed writing piece. But I just thought it was a pretty cool announcement to mention. It's going to be pretty game changing from my perspective. But let's wrap up with your third and final topic, and you want to talk about D-Link and TP-Link and some new Wi-Fi 7 travel routers.
Yeah. So I actually saw the TP-Link one first when I was doing some laptop research
Yeah.
on Notebook Check's website. It's the TP-Link BE3600. It's a travel router, and it's powered by USB-C. So you can like literally just plug it into anything with a USB-C port to power it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's designed to be used with a 5G modem to kind of allow for like literally palm-sized router. So you can connect it via USB-C for power, and then it
Mm-hmm.
has Ethernet ports and even a USB port. Um, and yeah, it's something you can kind of just throw in the bag, and it's really tiny, and it can help you kind of connect all of your devices to the 5G internet.
Mm-hmm.
I really think it's great. I don't think it actually has an integrated modem, so you would still need to have some kind of a modem to drive it. But it is
Gotcha.
Wi-Fi 7, so it's like really small and will enable really fast Wi-Fi wherever you might go.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but there's also a device from D-Link which does have a built-in modem, and that one is this is a horrible name, G572 5GNR BE7200 Wi-Fi 7 router. Um,
Oh my
and this
God.
one's cool because it does have a 5G modem built in, so you just pop in a SIM card and you get
Yeah.
Wi-Fi 7 connectivity, and it's fairly small. Um, it's funny because the images on their website or on the announcement from TP Tech Power Up, they don't really show what it looks like, but it's actually kind of like a barrel
Yeah.
shaped kind of device. It's still fairly compact. It doesn't look like a router, with antennas and stuff like that. So it's a little bit more portable. But I wouldn't consider that a travel router as much. It does seem like it would be something for like a backup, or if you wanted to, have Wi-Fi 7 at your business. Um, Wi-Fi 7 is just more secure,
Yeah.
has better range, and yeah, I think um, it's nice to see more Wi-Fi 7, 5G routers out there,
Mm-hmm.
and it's also showing that the cost of deploying Wi-Fi 7 and 5G together is coming down,
Yeah.
so that people can combine the two latest and greatest technologies, and this potentially connected to a 5G slice could even improve connectivity even better for business and personal use,
Mm-hmm.
in ways that like Wi-Fi 6 with 4G wouldn't have been able to do a few years ago.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you think? What are the ideal use cases for this? I mean, obviously it's portable, so it's for folks that travel, folks that
I mean,
use a lot of different devices, like including like
the
cameras
first
and
the first device would definitely be something where like you use this connected to something that's like already a 5G modem of some sort, like a USB
Mhm.
modem.
Yeah.
You connect that to this, and then you would get Wi-Fi 7. What it does is it like it ensures that you get better coverage in the area that you're in,
Sure.
so you don't have to like huddle next to the hotspot.
Like a hotspot, yeah, because a hotspot
Yeah,
doesn't have the antenna
yeah,
intuition.
exactly. And
Yeah,
then on top of that, the other device, I would see that as almost like a backup, where you have Wi-Fi for stuff, but then you have this device kind of sitting around, idling, in case your internet goes out. You can have this as a backup.
yeah,
Also, maybe I would take this to places where you normally don't have internet, but you want to have good coverage, where you have people walking around with POS devices, because most points of sale now are some kind of handheld tablet or
yeah,
phone-like device, and those need to have coverage, right? So you want to have something with a little bit better coverage than a hotspot, or even a Wi-Fi puck, because the truth is none of those antennas, to your point, are limited, and so is the power that they draw.
yeah.
So this is something that'll be a little bit more permanent, but also doesn't have to be, because as long as you have power, these Wi-Fi 7 5G routers can actually be pretty useful.
Yeah. Well, I
And
imagine they're powered via USB, I would imagine, right? When they're plugged into a notebook or whatever, right?
yeah, so the first one for sure. I couldn't get details on the second one because um, their product page isn't fully rolled out yet. Um, but yeah, it looks like that might be a possibility for the second one as well. I
Yeah.
just like, I'll be honest with you, D-Link didn't do the best job of, like, I went through the product page a bunch of times and I just didn't find anything. Meanwhile, TP-Link's webpage is like a million times more useful, and I
Oh,
can actually see how
yeah.
useful it is compared
I
to
mean, TP-Link does
previous
a great
generations.
job. Yeah, TP-Link does a
Yeah.
great job. Like I've got one of their extenders in my garage so that, when we're at the pool, the TV can get, a decent
Hmm.
connection for Netflix and all of that. And
And I
people
use
don't,
TP-Link here in my house for internet, because it's basically the fastest Wi-Fi 7 router out there.
yeah, for sure. Well, hey, buddy, it was another great podcast. Why don't you take us home?
Absolutely. We hope our viewers and listeners found this week's topics interesting. If anyone out there would like to provide insights on a specific 5G topic for a future podcast, please reach out to us on social media. Will's at Willtown Tech, and I'm at Ancho Sog. We hope you have a great weekend, and please tune in again next week. And don't forget to rate and subscribe.
Don't forget.